They say when you wear Black Power Media gear, you can accomplish anything. You play any and every position. Coaching, to kicking, to receiving, to running and juking. And, oh my goodness, I see that again in slow motion. Get off me. And you're going to have a lot of haters coming at you, but what you got to do is you got to shake them off, and get to your goal and accomplish it. And when that's done, it's a beautiful thing. I'm talking about going hard, extra, for that extra point. And when it's done beautifully, you talking about touchdown. Oh, and the crowd goes wild and they're celebrating with you and everything. Man, let's see that again. Nice.
Black Power Media, baby. That's how we do it.
Now go to blackpowermedia.org and get you some of that gear. Empower yourself today. Yeah.
I mix what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like, what I like. Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to another edition of I Mix What I Like, right here at BPM. Again, I'm Jared Ball, very happy to be your host. Welcome one and all, and to those who are able to join us here live and those who will see and hear this later, peace and welcome to you as well. What's up? Good to see some of the regulars have filed in. Good to see you all. Peace. Appreciate you coming through. So what I'm going to do, this is not deep. It will not take long. It will be in many ways repetitive, but I appreciate, I like Vacation JB too. Lots of pop-ups. That's right. Shout out to Roberto in the background. We got a house full of teenagers. So thank you all for giving me somewhere to run off and hide and escape to. So appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate peace, everybody. But like I said, this is not going to the first half of this, at least the beginnings of this will not take long. So what I'll do is go through just what I saw in this show, and then I can jump back. Yeah, this one does. He wants the mas. Oh man, and we had an incident the other day. My dude got himself a teardrop on his eye the other, he earned another tattoo. Oof. Roberto he wants to smoke. Anyway, he is very much like his namesake. All right. Anyway, let me. I'm going to jump out the chat for a few minutes and then I'm going to come back and see if you all have any comments, questions, queries, conundrums, catechisms, cacophony, critiques, calumny, cacophony, and on and on. But because this joint, so okay, so Hip Hop at 50, the latest product from Hulu and Disney, one and the same. And my headline for this is that Disney and Hulu are rebranding history to assure us that all is well and or getting better. Anything that might continue to be still going wrong in any of our lives and any of our communities is entirely on our own. All opportunity has been made, pathways cleared, barriers and hurdles removed, and hip hop has brought us here. So again, the narrative that hip hop brought us out of economic, cultural, and political, or hip hop brought about, I should say. This is the narrative again, and links in the show description to the discussion of the PBS series. It's basically the same narrative. This was a little less well-produced, shorter, and part of another broader series that is being put out under the rubric of, did I not write it here? It's on the bottom of Soul of a Nation. It's a series from Hulu and ABC, Disney, Soul of a Nation, and they have a variety of segments dealing with different groups of people, different communities, different stories. But this was their hip hop story, and it is again the narrative that hip hop brought about economic, cultural, and political equality, and that capitalism can solve all issues of past abuse and current inequalities or inequities. So, starting with the fact that it's a Disney product, before we get into any of the details, that it's a Disney product hosted by Angie Martinez, who, as I'll come back to, for decades has been a very popular host and figure in hip hop radio, Hot 97, MS Communications, has presided for decades over the popular rise and the commercial form, and has spent her career, a very good career, and she's good at it, narrating the colonial the colonial process, the process of colonialism as it embraced hip hop from its earliest stages, plugged it into the process of capital and corporate organization, and rearranged it for mass distribution. So she's in many ways perfectly well suited to the task of hosting this, but it's also, as a product of Disney, and big shout out. So we're going to take a quick detour here. I want to give a big shout out to theyrule.net, which is back. I used to use it all the time. It is back. And I want to encourage folks as they rebuild their system to consider, checking it out. And just very quickly, this is from their overview. Theyrule is an interactive visualization of the interlocking directories of the largest U.S. companies. It shows that 87 of the top 100 U.S. companies in 2021 were connected through shared directors on their boards. It allows visitors to browse through the boardroom connections and create maps, which they can share with others. By clicking on the chair menu in the top left, visitors can find links between companies and print out their maps. So they go through some of the history, and if anybody, and some of the methodology and how they compile their data. Again, I can't recommend it enough. And as you see here, I've started a map for the Disney company, and they've gotten a lot more high tech here. So what I've done is, as they said, you start here, and I just put in find connections, and then I started with the Disney company. And what that does is it puts this table right there in the middle. And then when you click it, it expands to show each of the board of directors. And then you can start, you'll notice that when a board of directors is a little thicker, a little chubbier, that means they're on a board that so when you click their name, another company shows up, and you can start to see the map emerge. And just in this initial click, you have the Disney company connected to Procter & Gamble, which is one of the largest advertisers, General Motors, Target, Bristol Myers Squibb, Nike, and Oracle. And I will do the, I will literally do this for hours. You can just start clicking and expanding and start to see all of the interlocks, Exxon Mobil, and you just start to get an idea of, it's a good visualization of, I guess, is that really it? And I'm sure they're still building this out too. It's really brand new in its return. You can really start to see what the incestuousness of the situation looks like. And, Citigroup right there, boom. So you have, in other words, as I used to use this to just simply try to make the point that none of this is I mean, this media product is not simply about making money. They have any number of avenues to make their money. They have, sorry, I meant to have this be bigger. They have any number of ways to make their money. They're connected, again, incestuously with so many different companies. But it's also about maintaining a worldview. I don't even know what this is. Publicly traded company, traded managed care company based in St. Louis. Then you can see the CEO and click on their name. It gives you their revenue numbers, the current board. Wow. Okay. Whoops. Anyway, so I just wanted to start with that a little bit. Just to, again, we're dealing with a media product that emanates out of that web, and something that is not just entertainment, and it's not here to inform, and it's not here to do anything but to present a narrative and a worldview that will appease the primary audience for this product, which of course is the affluent, the wealthy, those who want to know that what they've done is justifiable. And then the secondary, I would argue, target audience are those who would love hip hop and would love hip hop history and would want maybe to learn something about what they are interested in and have participated in. And what they get is more of the same madness. And again, narrated, I mean, and if we were to go through again the history of Hot 97 and Angie Martinez's maybe her own, but I mean, it's, so when we see her later in this episode interviewing Charlemagne, and well, I'll come back to that, but I mean, it's she's perfect for the task. She's then sitting around interviewing people like Fat Joe, Michael Eric Dyson. Oh man, I didn't mean to look up her name. I messed that up. The sister that worked with the Obama administration on his something about incarceration, and we get the story told over and over and over again. It went from, as Fat Joe said, hip hop allowed us to go from workers to owners. He literally said this. By the way, I'll pull this up because I think it's appropriate. I shared this from someone else on Instagram, and from Nadir Omawale, because in her critique of Juneteenth. And I'm going to play that here because right off the top, right after Fat Joe goes into this little piece about how hip hop allowed us to go from workers to owners, Angie Martinez says, you know, it's appropriate that we're gathered here because it originally aired on the 19th in the context of Juneteenth. And then she makes some vague reference to how Juneteenth and hip hop are about liberation and overcoming historical wrongs. So I think I think it would be relevant to just take another look at this. I know many of you have seen this already, but it's worthy to review again a little bit of what was said here.
A couple builders look. Juneteenth probably shouldn't be our National Emancipation Day because it ain't go down like folks be saying it went down. I mean, yeah, Major General Gordon Granger did sail into Galveston Bay, Texas that day and formally announce emancipation of the state. But June 19th wasn't an end, nor was it our collective independence. Let's unpack it. So the South loses the Civil War and the Confederate government collapses. Lincoln then issues an executive order, the Emancipation Proclamation, to take effect January 1, 1863. What some don't know is that the proclamation only applied to rebel states, namely Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, North and South Carolina, and Texas. Specifically, it said all persons held as slaves within the rebellious states now and henceforth shall be free. The executive order exempted states occupied by the Union and left slavery untouched in Delaware, Kentucky, Maryland, and Missouri, also called border states. These were slaveholding states that just didn't secede from the Union. So on June 19, 1865, while slavery was federally illegal in Texas, it was legal and would remain so until the 13th Amendment was ratified by a 3/4 majority on December 6, 1865. Now, the record suggests that New Jersey and Delaware weren't particularly excited about giving up their human property. They were the two northern states to initially reject the amendment, ratifying it sometime later on January 23, 1866 and February 12, 1901, respectively. So just like the 4th of July, not all of us were free, even on Juneteenth. But I already...
So a nice quick summary of one of many reasons why I think Juneteenth is happily promoted as a fantasy of having us attain some level of freedom that doesn't exist, and that is exactly what the narrative of this particular show is attempting to do. And again, just like the PBS series, just like a lot of the popular academic histories, popular journalist histories, the repeated mythologies in all of the popular culture, pop cultural renditions of this history, it just tells this false tale that somehow the most oppressed communities produce this hip hop culture and through that have overcome something, never addressing the continued economic realities of these communities, the increasing wealth inequality, the condition even of the South Bronx that is heralded as the origin, the point of origin for all of this. None of this is brought up. And it's not even detailed when Fat Joe offers up this worker to owner fantasy. It's just left out there. So then Martinez can just sort of say, oh, we went from just like Juneteenth. We can celebrate having overcome and become free. And then, of course, they just repeat the history. Cool Herc and the original party, Sugar Hill Gang, but none of the discussion of Sylvia Robinson, the commercialization of the culture, the corporatization. None of that is brought up. It's just regurgitated. Fat Joe is then brought back in. And I mean, and it's just fascinating. This gives you an idea of. This gives you an idea of what it looked like. When all this is going on, you can. Oh my goodness. See a little bit of they're just sitting around and there it goes, and they get a little bigger there. So Fat Joe then says, and he's back anyway. I don't want to go into that now. He then says, if it wasn't for hip hop, he does the same thing. Hip hop gave voice to the voice, brought a voice to the voiceless, is what he says. Oh my goodness. It's wild. Voice to the voiceless. And it made me think, like, I know that I know that his argument is that in the mid 70s, maybe the late 70s, early 80s, he doesn't say this, but it's the idea that the Black Power and civil rights movements are over, It's the Reagan era. None of this is mentioned, by the way. So you have to sort of fill this in on your own if you want to. Otherwise, you're just left with the unedited fantasy. But you know, the Reagan era comes in and depletes everything, just ruins everything. And that there was no voice. But there is this, but they do act as if there wasn't still, you know, labor struggles and anti-apartheid struggles and, you know, grassroots nationalist organizational work still happening and all kinds of things. And they act as if there was no radical thought of any kind being produced and that no one was thinking critically at all and that everybody was just sitting in the doldrums until hip hop emerged. And that's a little, I think, misleading too, if not a lot misleading, that a part of the narrative that is encouraged to support the eventual takeover and solving of all the problems that is credited to hip hop. They mention self-destruction again, the classic track, the posse track, the unified, the anti-violence movement. Of course, they leave out my man, Dr. Todd Stephen Burrows' argument, and I think a correct one that had as much to do with getting access. It was the very, you know, business-minded endeavor to get rappers access to major auditoriums, to tours, and violence was threatening that level of support and investment. So yeah, I think there's that in there as well. But anyway, none of that is considered. It's just, we just get the same regurgitation of there was self-destruction and then there was public enemy. Again, there's no discussion of the native tongues movement. There's no discussion of the Afrocentric movement within hip hop. There's no discussion of the fact that it was hip hop that popularized Malcolm X again before Spike Lee in the industry rebranded that effort. It was there's no discussion of X-Clan, of any, there's just the message, self-destruction, public enemy. And this reference to hip hop as the news network without, I think, the appropriate critique that if hip hop was, as Chuck D once said, Black people CNN, that it had eventually become what CNN has become or was ever from the beginning in terms of commercial media and news as it is projected and imposed on a community. But then they turn around and to give both credit and to suggest a continuity of a continuing legitimacy, they say, look, the same things that we were rapping about 50 years ago are still happening today in Baltimore in 2023. So then again, my question is, so then what are we celebrating in the 50th anniversary of hip hop? Especially as I'm going to get to, they ramp up the mythology, maybe taking it to another level. So if these same problems are persistent, what is the celebration? By the way, I made a note, I guess 20, 30 minutes in, that they don't even define hip hop. They don't even explain anything about the elements or recognize, obviously, because then they show a spray can, they show a DJ, they show breakdancing, but they don't explain these as elements. They don't explain that these elements were willfully reduced in their importance as rap became the most exploitable and marketable and manageable and powerful form, or most easily distributed form or element. There's no discussion of hip hop activism, of, again, the same thing, of the journalism, of the academia, of the scholarship. That is, there's no discussion of the hip hop political convention. There's no discussion or conventions, even to the extent that I was critical of them all. It doesn't matter. None of it is mentioned. So then they can come back and say, as they do in the next segment, that Kendrick Lamar is picking up where NWA left off. again, no critique of his being used as a commercial for Cash App and selling capitalism to Black people, as we've discussed here on a number of occasions. No discussion of all the contradictions of it that exist within NWA or any of the nefarious business and even intelligence agency connections between the management. None of that is discussed. They don't even discuss the FBI surveillance of the group. And then Angie asks, after this statement is made that Kendrick is picking up where NWA left off, Angie Martinez asks, quote, "When did we see the connection between NWA and Kendrick serve us?" And I thought almost for a second, like this fleeting second, like, oh, wait a minute. Is this a legit question? When did we see the connection between NWA and Kendrick serve us? She asks. And the answer from Fat Joe, I promise you, and I wrote it down verbatim and rewound it so I could hear it again and get the words right. Quote, Fat Joe says, quote, "When we elected Obama," end quote. A more egregious claim. I remember years ago when Bakari Kijwana made that argument right around Obama's election. And I was like, A, hip hop had nothing to do with this. B, we shouldn't want any credit for this. We should be condemning it. But here it is again with Fat Joe. When did we see the connection between NWA and Kendrick serve us? When we elected Obama. He went on to say that his Fat Joe went on to say, we all loved hip hop together. So we danced together, he said. We partied together. We did this and that together because of hip hop. So we could see the potential and we could elect Obama. Horrific analysis. Just terrible. Joe talks about and then Fat Joe talks about him going to the club the night after Obama won, where everybody was singing, you know, my president is Black and my Lambo's blue and all of that. And I was thinking, how perfect would it have been for a hip hop documentary to juxtapose that to moments like the one and I know many others have experienced throughout the world, being in Cuba in an Afro-Cuban spot, jam-packed, can't move, don't care, hot, sweaty, don't care, and the DJ drops It's Bigger Than Hip Hop, and the whole place is one of my, I will never forget that moment. One of my favorite moments ever, in or outside of music. Broken English, broken Spanish, people just one of those beautifully Black moments. I mean, it was just so perfect and wonderful. And the DJ, and the whole place just goes bananas. White folks think getting your brain, your brain. I know better than that. That's game, man. We ready to do something. I mean, come on, man. And he's on there talking about how good it was to be at the club in Miami, listening to about my president is Black. Oh, I was like, you could have had I'm sure there's footage of that. There's no footage of the moment I was in. Nobody had cameras down there. It was, early. It was 2000, the summer of 2000. The song was fresh and brand new. But I know there's footage of like moments. You all have been in them. I know I'm not alone. I know we know what it's. I know I know. So, but none of that exists in Hulu and Disney's history of hip hop. It was, and then cut. to Michael Eric Dyson continuing to talk about hip hop producing us the Obama moment. As I said earlier today on the remix, Dyson been wrong. I put the link in there again, you know, my hip hop history narrative essay, talking about his history, his role. He stays wrong on this subject. And for any of us who have actually read his work on hip hop, come on, man. We all know why he's there. And we know that most of the people who know his name and who watch him, they've never read his work. They hear the alliteration, they hear the preacher, they hear the hustler, they like his flow, but they don't understand. They don't understand his context or what he's saying or what the role is that he's playing. So he just stays wrong, adding legitimacy and academic cover to the silliness. I will forever wish I had done better in those debates, but you know, he's still wrong, and it was again on display here. Angie Martinez talks about how this was the first time she got to be invited to the White House to host a panel at the White House. I didn't even know this, but apparently Obama brought her in at one point to host a panel on police reform. Angie Martinez. Angie Martinez of Hot 97. Angie Martinez of Hot 97 fame. I mean, it's perfect that she was brought in. That's who should. She who has helped promote and platform every form of violent promoting beef and hostility. She who apparently, I don't remember exactly, but did she stand up when they were doing Smackfest? And if any of you are too young to remember or just were too smart to know anything about it at the time, accept the trigger warning and Google Smackfest on Hot 97. And this is one of the moments where I would like to have to be one of those more well-funded video essayists, because this would be where we would have the montage of video clips and audio clips of Angie's career and her front row center seat to every beef, promotional this, anti-woman that, violence record playing, this, that, the third, because she got to. That's MS Communications. That's Hot 97. That's a lot of payola. That's the number one music, the hip-hop and the but she's brought to the White House to do a panel on police reform. Then they have, and I'm sorry, I was trying to look up her name, but there wasn't a lot written about the production itself that I saw yet. So I'll come, but the younger sister who was on Obama's, who had been an intern on Obama's, I think something around mass incarceration policing, you know, something, and just co-signing Angie Martinez's, you know, and then Fat Joe gets to talk about himself, how hip hop allowed him to do activism and represent the low wages being paid to workers when it's some, you know, so now these are the activists. This is activism. So when we were voiceless, Joey Crap cooks the rock, makes the block hot. You know, he now gets to be the activist who brought voice to the voiceless. Because there was no one else but Joey Crack. I mean, it's remarkable. They do a whole little silly tribute to women to talk about the latest in women MCs, and Lola Brooke gets a lot of attention as a social media superstar. Honestly, I don't know anything about her. Don't know one thing. They didn't play any of her music. I didn't hear one thing. They just talked about her being a social media star and being representative of the increasing wave of women becoming bosses and leaders and voices within hip hop. And they make the point that social media is the new radio, so you can get broken on social media, like back in the day with radio. Except today, social media is free and it's independent, so you don't need to be beholden to this, that, or another to get. Hence Lola Brooks fame. And I'm sitting there saying, so if social media is the new radio, of course, a series like this isn't going to do a critique of radio and its relationship to hip hop and Black communities going back historically. Please, and I have to add this to the show description, go check the audio I put, the classic NPR Black radio history audio, please, that we put back up on the channel to get some of that context. We hear Glenn Ford and Todd Burrows and the late Tashima Walker being unfortunately sort of forced to speak for her Black commercial bosses at the time for Radio One. But you can hear it all right there. The history of Black radio, not only in terms of journalism, but commercial media and specifically hip hop. So if social media is the new radio, it needs to be critiqued and looked at very skeptically. And it's not a free space. It's not an uncorrupted space. This idea that anyone can go on Twitter and become famous is just absurd. The idea that there's no promotional work, there's no advertising, that there's no Procter and Gamble associations with Twitter. I mean, it's ridiculous. But they just continue on with that. And by the way, as we talked about before, the students in my class last semester created their own Bechdel test for the current hip hop that they're listening to, which included, if I remember correctly, the song, for it to pass the test, the track would have to feature a woman MC producing at least 2 verses on the track, so she couldn't just be a guest. And it had to be something where no body parts were referenced, and something about sex. And the point was that nobody passed the test. The students' own test was not passable from the music that they listened to. So the idea that women are collaborating more today than ever, as was the argument in this series, is an automatic good thing, is at best questionable. But it becomes this sort of false, let's just have women be represented for the sake of women being represented. It doesn't matter the content. It doesn't matter so for instance, I mean, none of this stuff, by the way, all this women power, they didn't talk anything about the more recent stories about Khalees and her royalties and her copyright, whether it was Beyonce dipping in and sampling one of her songs and suggesting that it was benefiting Khalees when it was benefiting, what's his name from the Neptunes? That dude, Mr. Happy, or some other entity, some other corporate entity. None of that is brought up. So are women controlling their music? Joe said we went from workers to owners. Where's the evidence of that? What, everybody own their music now? Everybody's getting played now. Everybody's getting played in, just put on display now. That not played as a gained, but their music is being played now. Everybody's getting equally platformed. Everything is great. Everybody's making money now. There's no evidence of that. They even get into a conversation because Jadakiss is in here talking about the locks and the contract with Diddy. But this is where they come. This is where this is the part where I was like, okay, they're trolling us. Because then they bring in Troy from Earn Your Leisure to assess the dispute between the locks and Diddy. Where he says, yeah, the locks may have gotten done wrong, but you hear in the exchange on the Breakfast Club that Diddy told him you should have read your contract. Got to read your contract. So as Troy says, it was a learning experience for all involved. A teachable moment. is what he said. I wrote it down, thankfully. Now, because of course, how funny would it have been if Earn Your Leisure got too critical of Diddy? Because we all know that Earn Your Leisure is platformed by Revolt TV, has done events with Revolt TV, Diddy's. So what were they going to say? And why would you bring in, of all the people to talk about the history of Puffy and the music industry, of all the people, you bring in these Earn Your Leisure cats who, right on cue, demonstrate the illogic that gets them platformed. It was a trip. Oh, and in all this hip hop history, you'd have thought, as we talked about this morning, they might have mentioned Russell Simmons. Oh no, you can't do that. Can't do that. Just leave him out. Then they bring up, 50 Cent and the vitamin water deal, Dre and the Beats deal. As again, the success stories are hip hop being used to generate wealth for white corporations, and the sale through branding and having your name on it of vitamin water and headphones, none of which you own, is the success. That's the ownership Fat Joe must be talking about. Again, the condition of the overall community is irrelevant. The fact that it's worse off now than then is irrelevant, because 50 and Fat Joe and Dre made their money. Then they even mentioned that hip hop, as Joe said, is America's greatest export, but with no analysis of the economy and what it means for a product to be first a product that is exported. This is taken as an automatic good. Of course, it's America's greatest export. Look what it has done. As we've talked about repeatedly here, look what Hillary Clinton said overtly as Secretary of State. We are going to use hip hop the way we used jazz in the 50s to project an American image that will help our foreign policy. So what the hell is Fat Joe talking about? Then they do another thing again. They do this hustle that I was saying was being done with Creed. They, just as Creed throws in this very well, I think, placed, it was done well, I thought, but it was clearly the inclusion of the deaf child and if somebody when I check the chat, tell me what I should know this, the official name of the proper name for sign language, right? There's a more professional name for, but the incorporation of sign language, that it's done so that they're good. So we lose sight of all the things wrong in the film. The same thing is done here with mental health. They bring in Charlemagne, who of course can remind us, as does everybody else, of the trauma that they've suffered in the emotional this, and we can now, but hip hop has now allowed us to talk about mental health. Shout out to the dogs. Shout out to the dogs. Charlemagne's presence, of course, reaffirms cross-promotion. Hulu to The Breakfast Club, which is owned by Premier Networks, which is owned by iHeartRadio, which was formerly Clear Channel. So again, if they were to go back and talk about and really flesh out this comparison of social media as today's radio, they would go back and talk about what Clear Channel meant to Black radio, to radio in general, to news, to the commercialization and then the routinization and the alignment of playlists across the nation, to the conquering of, which is now Clear Channel's major role, of physical space with billboards, etc. Again, any city you go in, check the bottom of that billboard or that bus kiosk and see if it doesn't say Clear Channel on it. Taking over the entire space, branding cities as they talked about years ago. But it's Charlemagne through that network that's going to bring us a discussion of mental health. Again, I'm not a regular listener, but I feel I need mental health correction after ever watching Breakfast Club segments. And to see text messages, I have to admit, to see text messages where Charlemagne basically is refusing to engage my work, specifically saying, I'm not messing with Jared's work, it's frustrating. I admit it's frustrating. So to wrap up here, just to sort of recap, no discussion of hip hop activism, conferences, radical politics, academia, journalism, no discussion of, as I said, of the commercialization, the corporatization, the colonization, none of that is no discussion of the current conditions, material or otherwise, of the people, or why there would be a need for so much mental health concern if hip hop has done so much, including giving us an Obama. Angie Martinez, again, playing the role of the corporate role of marginalizing radicalism. Dyson here again to again miss the point from the beginning, as I've been saying for years. And we're right back with some more false narrative to further confuse anyone who pays attention at all into thinking that there has been some radical change and that hip hop has in itself just become, as much as anything else, a corrupted force used against the people who produced it and produced it primarily, originally, and today. So, all right, that said, just remember to and if anybody got any questions, comments, critiques, conundrums, queries, let me know, and please re-put them at the top, and I'll double check it. Of course, super chats automatically get highlighted as thanks to StreamYard. So, I can look at it, Dr. Ball. You can look at it as compliments. He's scared. Yeah, I get it, but I appreciate that, and I get it. So I understand why, but it doesn't really help me all the time to feel better about it, because obviously the goal of the work is to reach audiences that are most affected by it. And when you see the gatekeeping happening, when I see it, when I see the gatekeeping happening that up close, it's like, dang, and then it's like, wow. Anyway, that's all. I largely agree. Hip hop could never be radical. If they decide to be radical, the very people that gave them their deals would turn their backs on them and bring rock and roll back. Yeah, that's I keep saying, you can't be rich, famous, and radical at the same time, no doubt. So I'm not blaming the artists. I'm really not even blaming the participants of this series. I'm just noting the intentional silliness. Dr. Ball, have you heard the Funhouse Mirror of a Song, Down by Law by Cuddly Mike? Yes. So tomorrow morning, come on in to earn your liberation. We will be talking about Killer Mike's new album. Marcel P. Black is going to join us, and where to talk about his review of Killer Mike's work, new album, and to talk about his new album. And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. And I can't help it. Hold on, we did something else I'm gonna show you here that we can talk about too and have a little fun with my comrade. We I don't know if you all saw this here from our dear brother's Instagram, but we can ask brothers Kalanji and Minister Server what they think of Killer Mike and his album. And what are they talking about? What are they talking about in this picture? What What they talking about? What they talking about in this picture, man? What's the conversation like? Man, you great, man. Man, you great. You great, Killer Mike. I love you. I love you. Your work, Killer Mike. Oh, thanks, brother. Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother Kalaji. Thanks, brother Kalaji. Just boy, just keep Jared away from me. Oh yeah. Hey, nah, man. I'm just messing with him. It's all good. I'll see. I'll ask him about that Sunday. It's not shots. It's just jokes. It's just jokes. It's just jokes. They all know each other. They go way back, you know. Good. I hope so. I hope so. Oh man. Anyway, at this point, I'm just hiding out, staying away from all the teenagers that are taking over my house. So, you know, yeah, it's just jokes, man. It's all love, man. I really, you know, even Killer Mike is getting ready to run Dr. West Stream Team and get. I would be. Has Killer Mike said anything about Cornel West's run? I would be shocked if he came out in support of Cornel West. I know he supported Bernie for a while, but Bernie was still within the Democratic Party. I can't see him coming out in support of Cornel West. That would be amazing. Yeah. That's Killer Mike. That was Killer Mike in there with Minister Server and Kalanji. Yeah, I have listened to the album. Wait, who was that? I did listen to the album. You know, it's hard for me not to be biased. I mean, he said we're going to talk about the lyrics tomorrow. Geechee been listening. We're going to get into it in detail tomorrow morning. But look, I think Marcel's review, I think I have the critique of Geechee politically, but I understand what Marcel has to say as well. That look, it's not my politics, but it's not a bad album apparently. And you know, I mean, you know, you heard there's a song about me. Nah. He's got a couple tracks on there that are, you know, he makes vague references to people who just talk trash and don't do nothing really revolutionary. But, you know, I'm sure that they could be, you know. Hey, but Kalanji and Minister Server said the album's great. And it's got Andre 3000 on it. And it's got, you know, I mean, it's got, you know, it can't, I know we had our little backs and forth, but I would be shocked if I don't think I resonated that much that he would have something to say. But I'm going to listen again. Now that you all mentioned, I'm going to listen again. I got to respond on wax. Hey, I'm telling you, if you know what, I'm going to push record on one of my shower freestyles. Just the audio, of course. But no, I'm just playing. That wouldn't be fair. That would be like me saying he has to write his critique in an essay or an article or a book. I can't outrhyme Mike. Although I don't know, them freestyles be. No, I'm just playing. I can't outrhyme Mike. Dr. Man told you to leave him alone. I did. I'm leaving him alone. He will never hear from me again. He will never hear from me again. I promise you that. No one ever who has told me leave me alone has ever had a problem with that. You can't. That's documented. The moment you say, Jared, we finish, it's finished. It's finished. No matter what the relationship was at the time, it's over. It's never gonna be. Jared kept pestering me. Jared, never. Oh, what's up? Phenonomics, thanks for the super chat. What would you ever do? What would you ever do your own hip hop anniversary, 50th anniversary, talking more of the co-opting of the revolutionary and potential? What would you ever do your own hip hop 50th anniversary, talking more of the co-opting of it and revolutionary potential? Are you asking me what would I do with the 50th anniversary documentary? If I understand, if that's that this would be, if I understand you, that's what I would do. I mean, you could make a dope with obviously with funding, and if I would, obviously working with more talented people in a team, I would want to tell the story, the very Pan-African working class story of this beautiful emergent art form that did start with poor people trying to find a way to get busy with when other avenues have been cut off. I would talk about the context that even Cornel West talked in that debate with John Henrik Clarke, whatever, the meeting, whatever. He makes a good point. I remember, since we've been talking about it, where he talks about the defunding of music and education and the removal of live instrumentation from schools and programs that led to young Black kids doing what they did with the turntables. I would tell that story. I would talk about, I would do it in a way that even that cassette documentary does in a little bit. I would talk about the Pan-African history, the European technology of the mixer and the turntables and all the devices that were all cohering in that moment, in that again Pan-African cauldron of the New York eastern part of the United States. And then I would tell it as not a success story, not as an American capitalist success story, as was Dan Charnas called it, but I would describe it as yet another example of what oppression and colonization does. It produces contradictions like beautiful art and thought, and then it produces the repression. And then I would talk about it, have the history explain the colonization that exists to this day. It does. If you look at the history accurately, it explains very well. My humble contribution, my argument about the mixtape, I would highlight the mixtape and its specific history as the first, as Angela Ard said, national mass medium of hip hop, and how it demonstrates the colonial process as it too became co-opted, corrupted, and turned into a device. I would do all of that. All of that. We would stop and take moments to talk about even the stuff I hated, all in terms of the scholarship and the journalism and the conferences and the activism and the efforts of the Malcolm X grassroots movement and Black August and all that stuff. We would do all of that. We would go back over the hip hop journalism that both defended hip hop's right to exist, but also produced this sort of Black capitalist logic that still pervades to this day. We would talk about how the Source magazine played this central role as something produced by white kids out of Harvard. That's what we would do. So by the end of the movie or the series, anyone watching would be wanting to kick the door down and throw their laptop out the window or at someone. Like that's what I would want to do. I would show those moments I was talking about. Again, there was no camera in the spot when I was at that one night, but there's been cameras in other spots I've been in, and there's been cameras in spots I know you all have been in, where you know what I'm talking about. You've been there like I was one day with a little those old camcorders, getting told by security you can't videotape DJ Premier this close while he's mixing. I would show that. I would show when Premier, with the lights off in the club, drops Come Clean, and you hear a quiet auditorium hear that boom, 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 and the place, wow. We would see that. We would feel it as an audience. And then we would talk about how DJ Premier is a perfect example. Look at his YouTube channel now. Look at all the tracks he talks about in their construction with the sampling, how he sampled in a way you're not supposed to know who he sampled, unlike Puffy would later. And how the industry destroyed that you can't sample like that anymore. You can't afford to anymore. How he created the boom bap. And what was he doing? From Texas to Boston to New York, meeting Guru, Jazzmatazz, how that brought back jazz to my generation. And we would have a whole segment going back and paying homage to jazz and other art forms that produced hip hop. Man, my joint would be fire, but it would be all politics. It would talk about how Miles Davis said, I got to go downtown to play for the white folks and then go uptown and play my jazz for my people. And we would show the hip hop equivalent. When Dead Prez says we got to go on tour to make money because the music we make for Africans in the United States can't be heard by Africans in the United States. And juxtapose that from Miles back to Dead Prez. I would show you. We would do a segment. Yeah, we would do a segment on women in hip hop, and we would do a segment on Queen Latifah. And we would show you how every movement gets corrupted. Ladies first to Revlon and playing a Fed or a cop or whatever, a cop adjacent on TV. We would show that process. You don't get to just freeze her back with UNIT. Why? No, you got to bring her forward to where she's doing the gangsters in the movies and she's doing the cops on TV and she's selling straight hair and makeup. Not to diss her, but to talk about this is the incomplete, this is the uncompleted revolution. That would be in my documentary. Oh man. Oh, there's more. Obviously there's more. I'm just riffing off the top of my head, but that's what we would do. So by the time we're talking about the artists of today, we would be hearing from the other artists of today. And of course, the whole thing would be scored, narrated, and performed in by Maimouna Yusuf. You know what else we would do? By the way, when we did the mixtape section, we would go to DC and the PA tape section. We would have that be juxtaposed. Because you got to understand the tradition of the PA tape and what its relationship to the underground still freest art form. Anyway. Woo! That was a fun exercise. I appreciate the super chat and the question. What type of, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what, because all I have are these ideas. We would need really top-notch, editors, and I don't know. And how much does Moo cost for? How much does it cost to get Moo Fresh to score and write a documentary soundtrack? Man. Oh, Mama's Biscuits would be in there somewhere. Don't worry about that. But yeah, I heard about that. Boston tomorrow night. Yeah, she's, shout out to her. So, yeah, that's what I would do. I don't know. That would be, honestly, I have no idea. I don't know how I would do that or when I would have the time to do that. Wow, I appreciate that. I gave myself chills. I got myself amped. Yeah, that would be the series we need. It does. Yeah. I like that idea too. But that's what we need. So I don't know. Let's see. I got 5 ordered too. How would we? Who would edit this? This is way beyond my capability. We would need to get a good editor. We would need to get into some archives. Wow. we would have to find those that footage. That footage has to be out there, so of some of those moments. That Cuba moment, but see, that's the problem though. You can't know it's going to happen. You can't know it's going to happen, so it would be hard to. But we would maybe there's a way to recreate it and narrate the story. Do you know even at the Capitol Center? I don't know, does the Capitol Center in DC even still exist? I mean, I tell my daughter, oh my God, I would even have to give as we would deal with Jay-Z as my main contradiction. I think he's too big to omit as a figure in hip hop history, but we would have to. So as I dealt with him and all the criticism that I have of him, I would have to tell the story of we would have to demonstrate what hip hop can be as he demonstrated. See, this is why I know he knows what he's doing. That night in that venue, it was relatively a smaller venue, not the Capitol Ballroom. I think it was not the Capitol Center, Capitol Ballroom. And he's on stage performing. This is right in 2000, 2001, or 2001, I think, or 2000, when You Don't Know was just coming out, bubbling on mixtapes. And a fight broke out. He's performing and a fight breaks out behind me. And you see people start to turn around. You can feel the crowd losing, Jay-Z's losing the attention of the crowd. And then all of a sudden, he stops. He says, stop that. It says, play that. And all you hear the dun, 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 and everybody turn right back around. And he that's an MC. We would have to do, we would have to do I would have to find what I don't know about in other cities, but like the DC history of like the U Street corridor and the Freestyle Union that Tony Blackman was in. And we would have to do talk about, I've seen Head Rock do that stuff. I've seen the Cornell West Theory do that, be in these small venues where the crowd's not really known, and you got to win them over. That's beautiful when that happens. And they're doing it with the right kind of political work. Those are the stories that would, so maybe we wouldn't focus so much on the Herc to Run DMC to, no. There would be this parallel. So when they're talking about the message, we would be talking about Brother D. And when it's nation time, or when we gonna rise this nation, something like that, Black Nationalist theme song. We would have to talk about, really bring out wise, intelligent, and poor righteous teachers. These cats never get mad. You gonna talk about it? They don't even mention PRT. We could follow Wise. I know Wise got, that would be the thing. How much does it cost to get Wise to open up his vault? He got to have some video gems in there. We would have to have a little section that fixes that Michael Rappaport nonsense about De La Soul and A Tribe Called Quest, rather. We'd have to fix that. We'd have to fix that beats, rhymes, and that whack ass documentary. We'd have to do something to properly attribute them. But but we would. Cornell West would definitely be a talking head, but I'm more interested in the band, Cornell West Theory. So anyway, my daughters are down. They all they probably down there talking about your father's yelling at somebody. I am getting fired up. Ready to go do some push-ups. Man, we'd have to, all of that. Like a lot of these cats, even cats that don't like me, like Lab Tech One and somebody like that, and like all of those cats, like there's so many beautiful MCs out here and talented MCs that don't get that. Come on, that's what we would do. I would get my man DJ RBI, and I know he would get involved. and telling some stories in the underground, all the college radio, all the hip hop college radio. Oh, University of Maryland had huge J Smooth in the Underground Railroad, like that kind of stuff. Why are they not ever talked about? Why are they never talked about? Ricky Vincent out there in LA, why are they never talked about? from my college. I could probably write some grants. I could try to write some grants. I've not been good at that. Maybe, you know what? Make some notes about this. I feel like there's been a challenge put up, so maybe we could do that. Yeah, thank you very much. Hit the like button, the blood clot. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, support the channel. Come back tomorrow morning for Earn Your Liberation. We're going to have some fun and get into some of these issues as well. So I think we got a project. Underground Railroad was the shit. And Jay Smooth, like we've interacted a little bit on social media, man. I know he would. When's the last time he's been interviewed for real about all of this? What's up, Coco? I've been challenged to produce my version of a hip hop documentary, a hip hop history documentary. Everybody was like, "You hating so much on these other fool stuff." Yeah. That might actually be, this might actually have to happen. I might have to. I would really love to do this, actually. I mean, they didn't even talk, like there's no discussion of the Malcolm X grassroots movement and all those Black August shows. They got footage. I mean, Dream Hampton made a documentary about it. So I don't know if I could afford a Dream Hampton collaboration, but she's not even mentioned though. Not, especially not in relationship to MXGM and Black August. She did a whole documentary on it. So they got footage, I'm sure, from that. Like, yeah. So make a 1-minute Kickstarter project proposal, easy to fund. Yeah, but harder to put together though. Ban Kamal from the, yeah, Kamal would not be allowed anywhere near the production. This would be a BPM minus Kamal production. We would literally put it up on the credits like that. BPM minus Kamal. Hey, and we can get Minister Server and Kalanji to get us a Killer Mike interview. Hey, I appreciate that. My enthusiasm is definitely bright. But yeah, I appreciate that. It brightened mine too, because I like that. I mean, there's just, you know how it is. There's so much beautiful stuff that could be. Oh my God. Where's the footage from the summer of 2000 Central Park show with Common, Mos Def, Talib, Pharoah Monch, Erica? I think Jill Scott. Was Jill Scott at that one? I can't even remember. Where Common, oh, this is why it hurts me so, the Roots, why it hurt me so much that he is where he is. Some of you, somebody who will see this was there. The summer of 2000, Central Park. And my favorite moment was when Common did The Light. And it felt like the whole world was singing the hook. There are times when you need someone, I will be by your side. Oh no. There is a light that shines special for you and me. Oh man, the whole park. Where is that? Like when you're telling the story, how come they don't ever have that kind of footage in there? There has to be footage of that for sure. That's what you're supposed to be showing. And then if you even wanted to do the whole, we were all different races and colors holding hands, blah, 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 you could pan the crowd for that. Oh, damn, that was so dope. So dope. Yeah, we gotta. I gotta at least put some thought into this. Let's revisit this. Now, this would be somebody got to have footage of that. So that would be the other thing. That would be the only other thing, or one of the other things. So even if we got the footage for that, we would probably not get any sort of copyright permission to use that stuff. So we would have to, find ways of demonstrating that without, yeah, anyway. Oh, I do need a development team. And I would need people who know how to do documentary. Like I've never done a documentary. So I think I have the right track of an idea, but I don't, it would definitely need to be some other folks in there to make it look and be right. But and then I'm going to reach out to a couple people and see to what extent something like this may be already in process or exist, and I don't know about it. There's a lot of stuff been made that I didn't, No, I sang one song. I sang one song with the band, and that was Concrete Jungle by Bob Marley. And while I played the drums and sang the lead on that one, that was the only one that I endeavored to sing. Man, our Jeff, man, shout out to Jeff White, man, our vocalist and lead keyboard player. Like straight up, all jokes aside, these were some phenomenally talented dudes. Like they are. I mean, he's still here. He did most of the singing, and it was beautiful. His voice is phenomenal. I put him in that, not as good, no disrespect. He's in that, he had that kind of Donnie-esque voice in there, whatever that he was in there, that lane. And then when we had Sister Tiffany with us, Tiffany Scott, no relation to Jill, but will out-sing Jill. And I'm saying it, I'm looking dead in the camera, straight face, no disrespect to Jill. Tiffany would out-sing all the Jills. And I saw it live. And I saw you talk about being in a room full of people that don't know you. I've told this before. Tiffany, we took her to a birthday party at Blues Alley in DC. I can't afford to do that ever again. Totally misjudged the cost of that. That was ridiculous. And there was a sister singing. She was her jazz night. And I had enough drinks that night that I got a little loud. And when it was invited, when there was a call and response invited, I said, they said something about, does somebody sing somebody's birthday or something? And I said, it's Tiffany's birthday and she can sing. And the woman said, come on up and sing. And Tiffany went up there. I'll never forget this joint either. Sang herself motherfucking happy birthday. And you could see the woman's face. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have given her the mic. People coming up to me all night long after that, like, who is that? I was like, yeah, exactly. She sings with Mama's Big. No, I'm just playing. I'm not playing. So there was no need for me to do too much singing. But I did sing one. I'm not playing about none of it. None of it. None of it. And they would do, we did Nothing Compares to You, and they would sing to each other in the way Prince and Rosie Gaines sang. And Tiffany, I love the way she said it. She was serious. She said she said to him, every time we sing that song, I fall in love with you, to Jeff. They weren't a couple, they weren't romantically involved, but the way they would perform, you could see it. Man, we was nice, man. They were very nice. I was a barely competent drummer. They were very nice. And you know, beautiful moments. Yo. And she said, oh man, I'll never forget. She told me, I don't want to be fat. Because I used to be like, man, you need to be heard. And she was like, I don't want it. I like singing in the band. I like singing with the family. I like singing da 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 da. And I felt that little bit of frustration, like, damn it, this is too good to not be out there in the universe. We shouldn't have to listen to all this nonsense, but I get it. Gave you food for thought. That'd have been a good. Yeah, I can see that. Reminds me of Secret Lovers. I can see that. Yeah, good music twists your heart all up. No question. And the last song we ever played was Purple Rain. I know it's corny, but the last song we played as a band was Purple Rain, and nobody's eyes was dry. We were all up there bawling through the end of that song. Played like I think, because we had two bands put together for that finale. So we had like multiple guitars. We had a whole horn section. We had, because we did Rare Essence's Holy Ghost. So we had a horn set, and if you know that song, boom, 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 da, da, boom, 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 da, 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 boom, 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 da, da, boom, 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 boom. So we had a whole horn section, backup singers, a whole packed stage, and a packed little bar. Man, that was a great night. And we played, so we had and ended on Purple Rain, and with all the guitar solos and all of the not wanting to ever end. I think we did literally like a 15 to 20 minute version. Like the longest. I would love to have a reunion show. Some of us were in some regular contact. I don't, a couple people still play. I think I'm the only one that doesn't play at all anymore. Yeah, right on, David, right on. Why did Mama's Biscuits break up? I mean, graduation. I mean, that was it. And it was just one of those things. Like, we knew, we were all going our separate ways. We were not like, we were band friends, but you could see, like, and really honestly, it was along racial lines. The cliques were along racial lines. So Jeff and Parrish are real tight. They stay in touch. We three were pretty tight and stay in touch. The bass player and the white bass player and the white rhythm guitarist were best friends. And then they had I can't wait to tell that story. They had a very interesting story. Anyway, but they went there, and then the lead guitarist, a white dude, was kind of on his own from all. So like, we knew it was like, we weren't gonna, and we weren't like, we were good for Frostburg, you know what I'm saying? We had a lot of fun, and there was a lot of talent in the band, but not as a band. Like, we wouldn't have. The first thing they would have had to do if they were going to be serious for real is replace me on drums. You couldn't have taken me into a studio and, you know what I mean, and recorded like a good track, not without, hours of overdubs and corrections and edits. But yeah, so, Yeah, it's supposed to be long. I don't know about 15, 20 minutes long, but yeah, we was all up there. Everybody was balling. It was wild. Everybody was just up there. Purple Rain. But it felt like it was dope. I don't know what it actually sounded like, but it felt like it was dope. Yeah. When will we be paid by Mavis Staples? Yeah, music is great. Music is great. The Cuba documentary is still on its way. It's still on its way. I'm assuming they're still, finishing it up. It was going to be a pretty big project, so I want to say it's supposed to be out by the end of this year, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, all right, good people. I like the energy and the excitement of this and this idea. Let's look into this documentary project and see what's what. Anyway, and come on back tomorrow morning for Earn Your Liberation. It's should be another fascinating show. Marcel P. Black is going to join us to talk about his new album and what he thinks of Killer Mike's new album. And I think there will be some respectful disagreement on some of this. I'm not sure. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. And I haven't heard from Diallo and his thoughts on it yet. Right on. Appreciate you. Yeah. Right on. Anyway, so thanks everybody for coming through. For those who are here live, thank you very much. Those who will see this later, peace. Shout out to you as well. And peace, that is, as Fred Hampton used to say, is long and only if you're willing to fight for it. And see you tomorrow with Earn Your Liberation and all throughout the platform. So make sure you got the bell rung, like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And so you don't miss anything. Catch you tomorrow. Peace, everybody. Thanks again for coming through.
I mix what I like. Everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like. Well, everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like. Sunshine. Everybody, wait a minute. I mix what I like.